Hey guys, it's Johnny and welcome to episode 67 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. I'm here today with a couple from the US, Elizabeth Hubertz and Nathan Arnold. Did I say your names right? Hubertz.
So close. Good job.
All right, so where exactly are you guys from and where are we now?
We lived the last 4 years in San Francisco, but we were born and raised in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We're currently in Koh Lanta, Thailand right now.
Yeah, and more specifically, Elizabeth, where exactly are we?
In an island paradise at a co-working space called Koh Hub that gets the best internet speeds on the island.
Yeah, so Koh Lanta is one of my favorite islands just because it has good scuba diving. It's just like a peaceful, kind of a beautiful place. So we'll definitely talk a little bit more about Koh Lanta and the actual co-working space today. But let's first talk about what do you actually do online?
Go for it.
So I actually am taking some time off to work on side projects. I come from a digital marketing background, and for the past 2 years I've been working as a web developer, which means in the web development community I'm still very junior. So I'm working on a side project, a website, basically a CMS system I built from scratch, and at the same time helping out on small projects, like I'm helping this co-working space work on their email campaigns through MailChimp.
Okay, that's very cool. And you, Nathan?
I make iOS and Android apps, so I still have a couple of connections in San Francisco that are willing to give me some cash to do that for them, so
Okay.
it's working out.
So are you freelancing for them now, or?
I am.
And did you used to work for startups?
Yes, I did. Elizabeth dabbled a little bit.
Yeah, so we both actually worked for the same startup, which is the one Nathan's freelancing for now. And Nathan worked for a couple of startups before that. It's kind of the San Francisco way. You join a company, they get a huge round of funding, they succeed or they fail. Latest company seems to be succeeding. So.
Okay.
My previous 2 companies crashed and burned pretty hard, so.
That's all right. Well, one thing I actually wanted to ask you two about is the difference between the startup scene and the digital nomad scene. What are the similarities, and then what are the differences?
Well, the startup scene actually seems very similar to the digital nomad scene in that it's all built with entrepreneurs. So I've met a surprising number of entrepreneurs here in Koh Lanta and in general on our travels. It seems like if you own your own company, it's very easy to also be location independent. However, the startup community in San Francisco in particular seems to be much more geared towards exponential growth. So you live or you die in a year. Whereas the people we meet here, they seem to be more focused on having at least one small business on the side that can support them through their travels, regardless of maybe what they're also working on. If they have a business, they're trying to grow very quickly.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that, where all the digital nomads I know, everyone's, they want to be profitable. They just want to make enough money to be able to keep traveling and not have to go home. Yeah. And once they have that, then they all want other passion projects, and those could end up being these giant companies, or these kind of a big thing that makes a big difference. But everyone also wants some kind of semi-passive income that makes even $1,000 a month where they can just live.
Right.
Agree. I'd say the other also major difference, at least for software developers, is that in the startup world, you're kind of expected to work like all the time. Like it's kind of rare to find a startup that's like, engineers, okay, you only work 8 hours today. However, as a digital nomad, it seems people are a lot more protective of their time, and they're a lot more willing to say like, it's 4 or 5, I'm done for the day.
Yeah, I try to stop working at 4 every day. Here it's been a little bit different because we haven't been going to the gym lately, but still around 4 or 5 we're like, okay, let's go down to the beach, let's go for a swim, so that way we can be done in time for dinner.
Yeah, totally.
And I think in San Francisco, I think it's because you have to pay like $4,000 for rent.
Right. Yeah, I feel like for software developers, there's also like definitely this expectation where like your work and your passion are one and the same. So like if you kind of say, I don't want to work 12-hour days, you're looked down upon a little bit. Like there's a little bit of social stigma for developers.
And I think here's the exact opposite, where if you are working 12 hours a day, people look at you like, why are you working so much? Like,
Right,
go down
yeah.
to the beach, go, like, hey, let's go diving, let's go do something else.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So the type of people that you met just here in Koh Lanta, like what do they do online?
We've met quite a few web developers, a couple of guys who actually have their own either kind of consulting agencies where they'll hire other developers in other countries to help do work for clients. We've met a couple of writers.
A couple designers.
Designers, yeah.
Yeah. There's kind of like this other group, I would say, which like has they're the broad category of entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Where they have like various projects that they're working on, which are sometimes very disparate, like very different from each other, but it's still like, okay, I give a little effort for each. So
Yeah, and I definitely met a lot of freelancers here as well.
Yeah.
I would say it's a little bit different than people I meet in Chiang Mai. Have you guys been up there?
We have.
we have.
Okay. And what do you think of it up there?
Love Chiang Mai. We weren't there long enough to really get embedded into the digital nomad community.
Yeah.
We really want to go back there for an extended period of time. Just the amenities for the costs are
Yeah.
outstanding. I mean, they have world-class coffee shops, speedy internet access, really cheap rent, amazing malls and shopping. I love Chiang Mai. We were up there visiting friends who are actually living about like 30 minutes north.
Okay.
And they are both location independents right now. They are movie editors. I think
Oh.
the wife was part of a team that won an Emmy.
Yeah. They're good at what they do.
So they too fell in love with Chiang Mai, rented a house there with their 2 kids actually.
Yeah, it's nice that it's a kind of a family-friendly place. I think there's a lot of families here in Koh Lanta too. Have you seen all the Swedish families around?
No.
I read online that Swedish families love this place, but I haven't met a Swedish family yet.
So there's actually 2 Swedish schools on this island that are accredited. So if you are Swedish and you want to basically come here, well, I mean, I guess not you. If you want to bring your kids here, because they're both like elementary and middle schools,
Yeah.
the government of Sweden will pay you to come live on Koh Lanta.
Funny.
Yeah, so school will be free. You can rent a villa. You can just like hang out for 6 months or a year, and it's completely free.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
That sounds terrible.
And that's kind of the whole reason why there's so many people here. And it's also just like a nice breakaway because it's how cold it is right now. I mean, even in San Francisco, it's cold right now.
Yep.
Yeah. It's,
We flew out of Chicago on February 3rd, and as we drove into the airport, there was a blizzard.
Yeah. It
happening.
was. There's a great picture of us like standing in the middle of it, like the snow hitting our faces, and then I think probably the next picture of us is actually in Thailand, where it was like
90 something.
right.
How do your friends and family react when they saw the first photo?
My mom was just thankful that we were not dead, and I think that made her very happy.
Yeah, I think they're extremely happy with our stories from Thailand because since many of them have never been out of the country, and if they have been, it's to places like Cancun, they have this idea of Southeast Asia as being very foreign, very unfriendly, very dangerous,
Yeah.
that is completely untrue. So hearing stories from us that, oh no, it's really built up for tourism, everyone speaks English, the food is amazing, we don't have any parasites yet.
Yeah.
They're stoked about it.
That's cool. But I definitely would say that, like, as people could probably hear the birds in the background, it really is a whole new world.
Yeah.
It's completely different than growing up in Fort Wayne, Indiana, or in the city. But at the same time, I mean, we really have everything we need.
Yeah, it's like the amenities are similar, right, to like Fort Wayne. Like there are probably fewer McDonald's on the island, but you can still find food to eat.
Yeah. Well, I'll say so. Actually, I just wrote a post on my blog about it's kind of like the guide to Koh Lanta for digital nomads, and in it I basically said now that there's a co-working space, it's definitely a good place where digital nomads can come. But as far as for me personally, I can see myself based out of here for a couple months at a time, but definitely not the whole year. And it's only because if as much as I like scuba diving, I like the beach, I really like having the options of like a normal city like Chiang Mai, where I like being able to go to a movie theater sometimes. We'll go to a mall. as lame as it sounds, I kind of like miss going to a mall sometimes.
I completely agree. We were actually talking about that. Like, Koh Lanta is nice for a while, but I think as far as options on things to do, things to see, things to eat, your options are going to be much better on the mainland. So the island atmosphere definitely has its perks. You have the ocean, you have the beach, but you will not get world-class coffee here.
Yeah.
Mostly Nescafe.
It's Nescafe.
Which is a big deal.
Yeah, and like in Chiang Mai, there's the Hill Tribe coffee where they pick it like an hour away, and they roast it in Chiang Mai, and it's some of the best coffee. And for me, I drink bulletproof coffee. I can get grass-fed butter from New Zealand at
that's what that is.
Yeah, but here in Koh Lanta, like you don't have those options. They have butter, but it's not, you don't have a choice. You can't find grass-fed butter. You can't find a lot of health things, the things that you like, special things you can't find. And I love eating on the beach and watching the sunset, but I think you stop appreciating it as much if that's the only place there is to eat.
Yeah.
So true. Well, and then we actually were shocked. I know it's ridiculous, but we were shocked by how expensive it is on the islands because our first stop was Bangkok, but Bangkok has an amazing street food scene. I mean, the best street food we've found in Thailand, and it's so cheap, 40 baht dishes. And go up to Chiang Mai, and it's similar. Like, if you really want like a 40 baht meal, you can find it anywhere, and it's delicious. There's fresh fruit. Here on the island, everything is 2 to 3 times more expensive.
Yeah. So 40 baht is like $1.20 or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I feel ridiculous because it's still so cheap by Western prices, but after having experienced Chiang Mai and Bangkok, it's surprising.
Yeah, I would say if you're coming from San Francisco, come to Koh Lanta and you're still gonna think everything is cheap.
Yes.
You're gonna be like,
Oh yeah.
pad thais, $3, that's super cheap.
Yeah.
But if you're bootstrapping, if you're on a budget, or you've been to you've been to Chiang Mai, then you'll come here and be like, okay, this is a holiday destination, and the prices reflect it.
Yeah. Agreed.
What are you two paying for your accommodation here? Like, where are you guys staying?
We're staying at a bungalow place called Ban Sita, and we pay 500 baht a night.
$15.
About $15 a night for basic accommodation. It's a Thai-style bungalow, 1 room with a private bathroom in the back, fan room, so no air conditioning, but we do have a small refrigerator and plenty of room for our stuff.
Okay, that's cool. We stay in a similar place just next door called Waterfall Resort.
Oh yeah, a couple people here.
Yeah,
there.
and it's $3 more a night, but it includes breakfast. So yeah, and I would say just overall, 100%. I personally would recommend someone come here if they just quit their job in SF and they're like, I have some money saved up and I want to go experience Thailand. And in their mind, Thailand is a tropical island.
Yeah.
I almost wish we would have come here first.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was silly for us to go to Bangkok, then go north, then come back down here. Like, especially when you're first getting out of your job, you just want that vacation. You don't want to do anything. An island is perfect for that, and then you can head north.
Yeah, and then we would have kept being surprised at how cheap things would get.
Yeah.
So.
The farther you go north, you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's nice. So the reason why I love Chiang Mai is because it's the burning season up there.
Same for us.
Did you experience some of it?
Oh yeah.
So much.
Yeah.
We actually spent a few days a little bit north of Chiang Mai in a little town called Pai, which is a huge tourist destination. It's an adorable mountain town, and up there you could really see the effects of burning season. So all of these farmers do slash and burn farming, help stimulate growth for the next year. One night, from our bungalow, we looked out onto the mountain, and it looked like the entire side of the mountain was on fire.
Okay.
I have photos of this, actually.
The burn line was huge. It was...
We asked the person who owned our bungalows if the fire had gotten out of control or if this was normal, and she was like, oh no, this happens all the time. Like, the fires will kind of go out of control, but then they go out by themselves, and you just wouldn't believe how much smoke was in the air. My lungs, my eyes.
Yeah, we were definitely had some sore throats and some burny eyes.
So the crazy thing is, when the air started getting bad, both Lewis and I noticed it, and we started just being, just very unhappy, just health-wise, and just in our mood. We didn't want to go anywhere. We just wanted to stay home. and we were like, you know what? It's only a couple $100. Let's just buy a new plane ticket, because we had a plane ticket actually for tomorrow to come, and we might even still have that ticket. But we decided, like, you know what? It's not worth our health. Let's buy new tickets. Just leave the other one or try to cancel it and come down a week and a half early. And I'm so glad we did, because this entire week and a half, people have been posting on Facebook how bad it is, how much smoke there is, and how smoggy it is. And this is why I completely unfollow all forums, all Facebook groups, is because you have these people that complain day after day about the smoke. And I'm like, just leave.
Yeah. Actually, our friends who are living up there, they contacted us a week ago, and they were going to come down to the islands in a month, and they're like, we're coming tomorrow.
Yeah.
Smoke is bad, we're leaving.
Yeah, it got bad enough that they definitely sped up there.
And I think the worst part of it is you have the naysayers that keep like linking to articles saying that the smoke's not really bad for you, or that like it's like an acceptable amount of pollution, or
it's actually healthy for you. It clears out everything in your lungs, replaces it with smoke.
Yeah, and it almost seems like whatever it is, whatever kind of open forum there is, any kind of group, there's always going to be, I almost feel like they're trolls.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But it's more that they're trolling their own life, where they're, it's like and here's the sad part. I really think it's because they then, for whatever reason, cannot leave. They either can't afford to leave, they have a Thai girlfriend or a Thai wife and kids, and they can't, bring them all away for whatever reason. So they justify why they're there.
Yeah, I mean, you see that with all aspects of life. Why people stay in crap jobs or whatever.
Yeah, it's like once you've put in a certain amount of investment, you feel like even admitting to yourself that it was a bad idea is too painful.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
But I would say 100% it was worth coming down here.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Agreed.
For us as well.
Yeah.
It was getting painful to go outside for a while. So.
Yeah.
So my parents are actually coming here tomorrow.
Nice.
Yeah. So basically my entire family, my parents, my sister, my brother-in-law, their kids, they're all flying in exactly this time tomorrow. And then I'm going to do basically a 2-week just vacation. I might still come into work a little bit, but I'm pretty much done.
Great. That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's really good timing, because I try to go back to San Francisco probably every 6 months or so, or at least once a year, just to see family. And I didn't really have a big reason to go back this time. Like I was just kind of like, you know what? It'd be nice to see some of my friends, but I was like, I don't really need to see them right now. No one's getting married. Like there's no big reason. There's nothing I really miss eating, because you can get pretty much everything in Chiang Mai.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's really nothing I want, And I was like, I do want to see my family. And when they said they were coming out here, I said, perfect.
And how long have you been out?
So I've technically been traveling since 2008.
Okay.
But I go back and forth a lot, so I'll go back and spend a few months here and there. But yeah, now it's been 7 years or something.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your connections, like you just said, going back to San Francisco, you didn't really feel that big of a need since there are no weddings or anything. Do you feel like there are, that's going to keep happening more and more? Like you're just going to get fewer and fewer connections? Yeah,
especially now that I have my girlfriend who, I really plan on being with for the rest of my life. So we have our own connection now, and we have our own, we're kind of building our own life. I think when I was kind of just always hanging on to just high school friends or college friends, I didn't realize how much our lives have kind of grown apart. I still keep in touch with them. So actually just earlier today, I was laying in that hammock right next to us, and I was talking to my buddy Simon, who actually works for I think Comcast, but he does their back-end stuff. I don't know, some kind of programming.
As long as it wasn't customer support.
No, definitely not. And I was just talking to him about his job and everything back home, and I realized I was like, I'm not really missing anything. We'll still be friends. Maybe he'll come out here, maybe I'll go back and hang out, but there's literally no reason for me to go back.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is this experience actually of getting out of the country and starting our lives as, I guess, digital nomads. Mm-hmm. It's really made it clear how much our lives have grown apart from people we grew up with. And I think especially in the middle of the country, maybe more so than people on the coast, that difference is a lot greater. Like, I have friends who are in this small town who have 2 kids already, and I'm only 25. And then me and Nathan are out here traveling around in the middle of Thailand, living on an island as tech workers. It's like, how did that happen in the course of 8 years?
So how do your friends and family back home like kind of feel about what you're doing? Do they even really understand it?
I don't think they really understand what we do. I think Nathan's mom has referenced our job as typing on computers.
Yeah, so like my friends get it for the most part, I think. Like people that are in their like 20s and 30s, they get it. The older generation, like the boomers, like my mom, that are in their 50s or 60s.
Hi, Mom.
Hello, Mother. Seem to not entirely get it. Like they view it as a vacation, kind of like if you're on a cruise for 9 months.
Who goes on a cruise for 9 months?
I don't know.
That would be the worst.
Yeah.
Terrible.
So much food poisoning. But they view it more like that. Like they don't entirely understand that you can get paid either by having a company that you run or are contracting. Like,
I think a lot of them think we're either fabulously wealthy, which we're not, or that whatever we're doing, it's really, really, really hard. Okay. And I don't think that's true. I think it was just more of a, this is something we really want to do, let's go for it. We bought a plane ticket, that was it. So I kind of wish they would see that, because sometimes I think people get stuck in a Midwestern mentality, and I'm like, no, man, you could do this too.
Yeah.
So tell me about, so you two are engaged?
Yes.
Tell me about the kind of putting off the wedding to come here.
So
broke our mother's heart.
Yeah, well, there's a funny story that happened before this, which was when we were about to move to San Francisco.
Are we really telling that story?
Yes.
Okay, can I tell it since this is my blunder?
Sure.
All right, so we were moving to San Francisco. We just found out Liz got her first job out of college in her dream city. And now Nathan, we've been together for a year, who's a software developer, is coming along with, because where better to be a software developer? So we sit Nathan's mom down, we take her to a nice dinner, and it's very obvious we're about to tell her something really serious. So the big joke in my family, so my mom has been telling me forever, like, don't have kids until you're like 30 because you'll ruin your life, whatever. So we said, we have some really big news. And I go, I'm pregnant! Just kidding, we're moving to San Francisco. And
then it was 2 tragedies.
Oh my gosh, it was the worst thing I've ever done in my life. You just saw the elation, like, grandchildren. Or I was like 21 at the time. And then it was like, no grandchildren, and I'm losing my only child. It was horrible.
I actually have a sister, so she has more than one child.
Sorry, not only child, only son. Sorry. Oh, now your sister's going to listen to this and be really mad at me. But
so flash forward 4 years.
Flash forward 4 years, we did not break the news in the same way, but when we got engaged, everyone kept asking us when the wedding was. And we actually had a fairly decent chunk of change saved up and had considered having a wedding. And then we kind of realized, oh, you know what we could do with the average cost of an American wedding, which is around $30,000? We could start our lives abroad and go live on an island in Thailand for months on end. So we decided to do that.
So what is the actual plan while you're out here? Like,
see the world.
Yeah.
Make a little money along the way so we can keep on traveling.
We didn't start out with a definite plan. Like we knew we were coming to Thailand, but that was pretty much where the plan stopped. Because we had both been traveling a little bit before, and we both hated the set schedules where it's like, okay, in 3 days you have to city hop, like next 3 days, different city. So we both hated that. So the
it was like,
take it slow.
During college, we had a lot of checklist travel where it's like, see this, do that, eat this, go here. And it felt like if you didn't do those things, you weren't traveling the right way. So this was kind of our chance to go out and see the world in our own way and take it really slow and take time to actually get to know cities and just live life the way that we would normally, but in a different location with a different culture. Maybe learn a little bit of a local language.
I mean, really, that's all we're actually doing is we're living a normal life.
Yeah.
But just in a different culture, right? And I honestly don't think this is that different from living in Hawaii.
No.
It's just a lot cheaper.
Yeah, Koh Lanta reminds me a lot of Hawaii, actually. So,
Like, how does it remind you of Hawaii?
well, it's an island paradise for one. Super laid back. Everything's more expensive than on the mainland. And there are tons of tourists everywhere.
I don't think there's actually that many tourists. Like, compared to
Chiang Mai, like old city, yeah, I'd agree with that.
Because so on Long Beach, the beach literally right behind us that we can see from here, there you can have like a lot of open space just to yourself. Like if you put down your towel somewhere, there's not gonna be anyone next to you for 50 feet or 100 feet or maybe even like a block.
That is really nice about Koh Lanta. I haven't been to the other islands, but what I've heard, especially about like Koh Samui,
Yeah.
it's just people everywhere all the time. Can't get a spot to yourself.
Yeah. And like even like Phuket is exactly the same way. They actually banned beach chairs now from Phuket.
What?
And I couldn't figure out why. And I think what it is they don't want people to sit on the beach all day because it's too crowded. So they're like, well, if we take away the umbrellas and the beach chairs, people can only be under the sun for X amount of hours before they burn. So they'll get off the beach, go into the restaurants, spend money, or go back to their hotels.
Unintended consequence, more medical tourism for Thailand.
Yeah. So I think there are two reasons why Koh Lanta is less busy. Is one, it's kind of half the year. It's what they call green season. Do you actually know what that is?
It's supposed to be rainy monsoon season, right?
Yeah, like it does rain, but it's still sunny like half the time. I think what it is, it's the diving becomes bad during that time, just because the weather changes, the water changes, so the visibility goes away. And diving is a huge part of Koh Lanta. So for like 6 months, the weather changes, it's not as good. And a lot of people just leave. Like half of the island actually shuts down. So because it's not like a year-long tourism thing, the resorts aren't as built up. There's not as much infrastructure. And then second, it's a lot easier to get to Koh Samui and Phuket because you can just fly directly there. And I think, tourists coming from anywhere, they don't want that extra travel, that extra leg.
Right.
And that prevents people that aren't like super, super laid back or have like weeks and weeks to travel from coming here.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. And that's why I think even though there's, a ton of Western people on this island, most of them aren't tourists. They're not like, 2-3 day tourists.
Yeah.
Like pretty much like everyone I've met is here for at least a few weeks.
Yeah, it's interesting. Someone told me that Koh Lanta was like Pi. Very similar, and I think that was very misguided.
Yeah, kind of false. Like, just not really.
Yeah, so Pai, as well as Chiang Mai and parts of Bangkok, it seemed like every city we went to had these little backpacker communities. And these are like the checklist travelers, really. A lot of them wear this very specific type of pant. We call them the travel pants. They have a very low crotch. They're a little weird. But
like hammer pants, but with more colors.
Most of them stay in, there's usually some kind of a backpacker ghetto in the town, and they all live together, and a lot of them are vegetarians. So we didn't actually find that in Koh Lanta. You don't get those people because it's not along their route.
Yeah, it's not on the banana pancake trail.
Exactly.
Right.
So we found that extremely refreshing.
Yeah.
It's not like that is a wrong way to travel by any means. I think I did that in college and I learned so much doing it, but we're at a different stage of life. We're doing a different type of travel.
Yep. And yeah, Koh Lanta is definitely more long-term travel, lots of couples, families, and I like it that way. Like, so I'm kind of glad there's that extra 2-hour travel leg that prevents, a lot of people are just like, what, I don't have, an extra day to travel. I can see 2 more places. Let me do that instead.
Right.
Yeah. So how long can you see yourself actually staying here and working?
In Koh Lanta or in Thailand?
And let's say both.
So Koh Lanta, probably not long term, because I am a redhead, and on our second day here, it was very clear that I'm not meant for island paradise. I am currently peeling, got a really bad sunburn. So Koh Lanta would be more of a vacation destination, and it just has the added benefit of also being a good workspace. So maybe like 1 month max. Chiang Mai, I could see us getting an apartment for a year and living there long term.
That's what we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think our stay in Koh Lanta, since I just booked the flights out, will actually be like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, so about a month.
Yeah.
So, where are you going after this?
Well, Bangkok first for a week, and then we're flying to Taipei on April 3rd.
Very nice. Why Bangkok for a week? What are you going to do there?
Well, we discovered there's an entire neighborhood that
we did not
really
see last
caters to digital nomad types,
Oh, yeah.
expats, hipsters. We had no idea it existed, so we really want to spend some time there.
What's the neighborhood called?
I totally forget. Is it
Yeah, I'd have to look it up.
Trang something.
Okay. And there's like co-working spaces, or like what do you actually know about it?
So we talked to one guy here who was there, and co-working spaces, really good coffee shops, good food. That's pretty much all we know.
Okay.
We just figured it sounded interesting enough to check out.
Yeah. So you report back. Let me know how that is.
Yes, we
Of
will.
course.
When we first stayed in Bangkok, we actually stayed in Nana, which, if anyone wants to look that up, is the red light district in
Yeah.
Bangkok. Really interesting. Would recommend, but for a certain kind of traveler, I think.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, redhead, red
Red
light, same.
light. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the same.
So, why are you going to Taiwan?
Same reason we want to go to the hipster district in Bangkok. We've just heard so many good reviews, unsolicited good reviews
Yeah.
from people we've just met randomly, and they're like, "Oh, Taipei! I love Taipei. I would want to live there forever."
Yeah.
And
So again, it's a different type of traveler than like say the backpacker with their travel pants. It's more of like the hipster.
yeah, the digital nomad, people who are getting apartments for months on end, working in Taipei. Air quality is supposed to be a lot better than in other huge metropolitan areas in Asia. Outdoor activities are close, and great coffee, great food, great expat community.
I can definitely say Taipei and Taiwan in general has fantastic food. The best night markets anywhere in the world. I would say the second best night markets in the world are in Chiang Mai, and it beats it. And it's because so like the street food in Chiang Mai or in Thailand is good, but it's just street food. There's nothing kind of special about it. In Taiwan, street food is like a pride. It's an art where pretty often the owners of these street carts will become these famous TV celebrities, and they almost know that like if they really like put the effort into their craft, maybe it's their way to get famous.
That's awesome. I actually have a friend who is from Taiwan, and I asked her for advice on living in Taipei. Her only advice to me was to eat as much as physically possible. So that's my plan.
Yeah, and it's weird because it's one of those things where like no one outside of Taiwan really has ever had Taiwanese food. And I don't really know why, because it's not okay. So Filipino food isn't good at all. I don't know, have you ever had it?
Well, there's a
had
food
fusion.
truck in San Francisco that sells Filipino fusion. So
Okay.
it's like
So it'll-
adobo, bodo.
It'll be like sisig. It's called senior sisig, and it's kind of like
It's Filipino food in a burrito, and it's the most delicious thing I've ever
Yeah.
had in my life.
So I can see fusion Filipino food being good,
The
but
regular one is
just
not.
just food in the Philippines is not good at all. But every Filipino person you'll meet, I will always say how freaking good it is. They'll always say it's the
Funny.
best food in the world, and they're so prideful of it. And everyone who's ever tasted it was like, "This isn't very good."
not the best.
But I've heard from plenty of non-Taiwanese people or non-Asian people that the food in Taiwan legitimately is good. So
Excellent.
you can report back on that.
Great.
That's your second homework.
Yes,
Eat as much as you can.
Yeah.
I can do that.
And I'll actually see you out there.
I know. You guys
Great.
are heading over there around the same time, right?
Yeah, so we're going to spend, I think, 10 nights here and 10 more nights in Koh Lanta after my parents get here. And then we're all going to go to Taiwan together because that's where my family's from. And we're basically going to just travel around the whole island. We're going to go down to the south where my mom was originally born and she still has some family. We're going to go through Taipei. We're going to go do some hiking, lots of food.
Nice.
You know, who knows what else. And it's going to be the first time that Larissa meets my family.
Oh, that's
man,
so
that's
exciting.
exciting.
Yeah, so that's the next step. And not only is she just meeting my parents, she's meeting
Like the
the
whole
extended
extended
clan.
family.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's cool that now she's working online, so she can actually just stay as long as she wants. I think if she was still teaching English, she might be able to come out for like a week or two, during a break. But now, literally we can have family, we can do whatever the family wants to do, and then at night for like, let's say an hour or two, we can just sneak off into the co-working space or into a coffee shop, do our work, and then still have time to kind of spend with everyone. So I really think this lifestyle is good for couples.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, and also it's so nice traveling with someone that you've already been living with. So, like, for me and Nathan, obviously we can share a sleeping space, it cuts down on costs, but also you're just sharing the work of travel with someone that you love. And travel can be very stressful at times, like booking flights, booking hotels, finding, places to eat, whatever. So whenever one of us gets burned out, the other one is there to pick up the slack. And it's this give and take. Like, it's like we have our own little mini travel business between the two of us. And we're partners in love, in life, now in travel. It's been an awesome experience.
That's cool. So do you think you're going to be making enough freelancing or on the side to be able to cover your travels?
That's a good question. For me, I would say yes, definitely, but there's a give and take on how much I actually want to work.
Yeah, so we're still not sure if this is going to be our lifestyle really long term, or if we want to kind of spend some time just traveling and just experiencing life, not working at all. So since we've only been out for less than 2 months so far, we haven't made that decision. So at this point, we are not making enough money to cover our travels, but we've only been working this past week, literally for the past like 5 days.
Yeah.
And in those 5 days, we have covered almost half of our travel expenses so far. So that's kind of why we're saying we can definitely make enough, but it's just a question of how much do we want to work.
And it's good to have that balance where you can say, okay, now I just want to chill out for a few weeks and just enjoy. Especially, I think the first month and a half, you just want to be a tourist.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we really had no desire to work for that first month.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
And even now, we're still kind of like maybe 1 week on and then travel for a while. But
Yeah, I kind of like that schedule where it's like, okay, you have a week on where you're like getting money and stuff, and then like the next like week or more than that, you're like doing things you really are excited about.
So whenever people tell me they want to come to Thailand and work on their business for a month, I will say, well, why don't you just come for 2 or 3 months? Because that first month, as you said, you're not going to want to try. You're not going to want to sit down and work. And it's almost, you could still, enjoy having dinner on the beach at night. You could still go for, like, I guess you can wake up, go for a walk on the beach, go for a run, come work a full day, have dinner on the beach, and then on weekends explore. And that sounds like it's going to be enough. But I think especially if you came from a normal job, you're not going to want to do that.
Right. Yeah, like that's
totally agree.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Like, even the weeks on, like, I definitely don't want to work a full 8-hour day or anything. It's like, okay, I'll work, like, maybe 4 hours or something, just because there's other things I want to do.
You also get, like, a really much better idea of how much your time is worth, I think. So I'm looking into freelancing for the first time for a company I used to work for, and they were like, well, what's your hourly rate? And I knew the hourly rates for software development, but they just happened to need writers, and I used to write stuff for them, and I'm pretty sure the hourly rate for that is much lower than for software development. And I'm like, is that even worth my time anymore?
So how much do software developers get paid?
So hourly rate in San Francisco.
So I won't say exactly what I'm getting paid, but I will give you a range.
Okay.
It's I charge between 100 and 150 an hour. And I'm usually like fairly generous, so I won't just like sit there and do nothing. Like, usually if I'm charging that per hour, they get like the most efficient part of my day. Like, I get things done really quickly. Those are like San Francisco wages. I've heard of people charging more than that, but it's like a reasonable wage.
And that's also iOS and Android is probably the top of the market right now.
Yeah, there's pretty high demand for iOS and Android
So
developers.
my current rate is $115 an hour. So I don't mind giving that out, and that's regardless of what you want me to do. And here's what I would advise to people is that $100 range should be what you should be charging. And if you need to step up your skills or work harder or, or provide more value, do that like first before, like don't just settle for less money.
Right.
Like I'm sure a lot of people listening to this are like, I'd be happy to make $20 an hour.
Yeah.
But the truth is, everyone should be worth $100 an hour.
Yeah. Actually, I think the people I just talked to, one of my friends said, oh yeah, a pretty good rate for writing a blog post is like $30 an hour. And I immediately just was thinking, that's not worth my time.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna I'm on a beach right now. I would pay someone $30 to be on this beach and not have to work right now. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Around $100 is what you should strive for.
Yeah. And if you're gonna spend an hour, like do something that you either enjoy doing or be productive. And I think that's the biggest reason why, back in the US, we don't get paid that. Most people don't get paid that much. Is because they know that during those 8 hours that you're working, you're probably only working 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, I can't pay you $100 an hour, knowing that you're probably only gonna be working 2 or 3 hours.
Right.
Yeah, and I think this has actually influenced kind of like later decisions for my career, which basically I actually really like, being super efficient for like 3 hours and then just like relaxing, like not doing work for the rest of the day. Like if I would rather have a super high hourly rate and work like really hard for those 3 hours than to like just kind of hang around an office from.
I think everyone's had that
6.
feeling where they're in the office, they know they have to be there from 9 to 5, and you don't really have anything else to do, but you're getting paid for those hours, so you just sit there.
Yep.
Which is ridiculous. When you're freelancing, you say, no, I'm worth a lot more, but I'm only going to charge you for those hours when I am being productive for you. So.
So it's a kind of a big mentality change. So what actually is a web developer? What's the difference between that and a web designer or someone like a webmaster?
Good question. So a lot of these definitions are pretty fluid, and most software developers can wear many hats. To me, a web developer, I'm a full stack web developer, which means that I've worked on full applications, database side, doing back-end coding. I use Ruby on Rails, and then also translating static designs, so like a PNG of what a website should look like, into HTML, CSS, JavaScript. A web designer, that could mean a few things, maybe user interface, user experience, who knows? They
could work with like Photoshop more to actually be creating how it looks, as opposed to actually coding it.
Okay.
Or maybe they specialize in HTML.
Yeah.
Okay. So like let's say I'm starting a new business and I'm like, okay, I want a website for my doggy daycare. I could hire a web designer to make basically like a picture of what it should look like, where everything should go, where all the buttons should go, and then they give it to someone like you to actually make the website live. Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's one way it can work. Yep. So that's actually how my last company worked. We had a designer who made those mocks static. I don't know if she called herself a web designer, but designer. And then I was the one who made it live.
Yeah.
Okay.
And same for the app world. Like usually I work with a designer and like we, they'll give me like a static image file for how it should look, and then I just kind of flesh it out.
I guess that makes more sense, to have one super creative person that might not be good at coding to figure out the user experience. They're like, okay, someone goes to this page, what should they see on the left? What should they see on the right? Like if they scroll down, what should they see? And not have them worry about how to hard code it yet, and just make it pretty. Yeah,
well,
usable.
Web design is a very, very specialized skill, and when people are good at it, they make way more than developers. I mean, they're in extremely high demand, especially mobile designers. And if you can find a really good designer who also knows how to code, we call them unicorns.
Yeah,
and they'll probably get paid whatever they want at Google.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so that's been my experience. Like every startup I know was trying to find an experienced designer that like could actually like knew everything about apps or like the web or something, but had like very specialized knowledge, and like they were probably harder to find than developers.
Do unicorns call themselves unicorns? Or is that just
sometimes?
I've never met one.
Yeah,
Nathan worked with one.
Yeah, like sometimes, like in blog posts, they'll like jokingly refer to themselves as unicorns, but it's not like a office title.
But yeah, so it doesn't say it on their business card or anything.
No.
Probably not.
I'd probably put it on my business card. But.
Yeah.
Do you think it'd be easier to first be a web designer and then learn how to code, or the other way?
I think no matter what, it's a really big skill to learn. They're very different. I think it would be the same, like for me, I came from the marketing world and then went into coding. Learning how to code is completely separate from what you would do as a designer. And designers, it also depends on what type of designer you are. So there are people who come out of school and they're really great at illustrations. So now not only are you learning how to code, but like just the fact that you are a designer doesn't mean you know anything about the way the web works. And you really need to take some time to study how pages interact, how they resize, like just what it means to develop for the web instead of for paper before you even think about jumping into it.
Yeah, there could be kind of two tiers of skill levels there. Where it's like, okay, you have a person that's great at Photoshop, but then they don't necessarily, like they struggle with how to design things so that they can resize easily.
Okay.
So like, you know, if like something works well for both phone, browser, and television.
Yeah, so that's like what you would need to learn to get into web design, and then getting into programming at the same time is just a completely different ball game.
Yeah.
No matter what, that's a separate skill.
How did you get into programming?
So, funny story. So I took a couple of classes in college. Nothing big. It was like the intro to computer science course and also a web design course. So flash forward, I have a political science degree from Wellesley College and went into digital marketing because what do you do with a liberal arts degree? And maybe a few months into my job, I started noticing some gross inefficiencies. For example, when a client wanted to know how many tweets were tweeted at them that day, this is before Twitter had an analytics platform, my job was to manually count them one by one in my browser.
Okay.
Mentioned to my boss how inefficient this was and that I was probably not doing the most accurate job. And there's a tool we could pay for, it was like $5 a month, and that proposal was refused. Why? Because the perception is it's more accurate if we have a human count them.
Nope.
Which is
No.
so wrong. It was so wrong. It hurt me.
Okay.
And from then on, I was like, well, maybe I'll just do some research into the Twitter API. Started learning on my own.
Just try to save $5.
No, well, it was to try and save my soul.
Okay.
I mean, can you imagine? It would take hours counting tweets with tally marks on a piece of paper. It's horrible.
And like, say you get to like tweet number 90, right? And then like the page kind of stutters, and then you forget if you've counted the last one as 90 or 91. So like, no one wants to go back
and
to
there were
one.
little tricks, like you could highlight them, but sometimes like because of the scrolling page, it wouldn't work right. Oh, it was horrible.
Yeah.
So they prompted me to start studying computer science, which I did on the side, and attended meetups and went to small courses on the weekends and jumped into being a software developer full time 2 years ago.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
So, when you first even took those intro to computer science classes, what sparked you to do that?
In college, actually, there was a girl on my cross-country team whose dad invented the Java programming language. No joke. She's from Silicon Valley, and we were good friends. She said this class was great, and I believed her. That was it.
And part of that, were you already very like computer savvy? And the reason why I ask this is I don't meet that many female programmers.
Oh, yeah. So it was interesting because I didn't have any awareness that it was a male-dominated field. Wellesley College is a women's college, and I had never done anything with computer science before, so it just wasn't on my radar. And for example, another thing at Wellesley is the economics department is the most popular department, and what I realized after leaving is that's also a heavily male-dominated department at most universities. And so I just didn't know. I was like, all right, there's no reason why I couldn't be able to do this, so why not?
I like how you just fell into it and without thinking too much about it. That's great. Do you think that there's going to be a trend in the future for more female programmers?
This is a complicated issue. I hope so.
We've actually been talking about this a lot between each other.
However, I also hope it's not just a way to bring down engineering salaries. For example, you see like the Mad Men era of advertising, where all of the hotshots are male. Nowadays, you go into any marketing department and it is solidly female. Female, gay men, very, very feminine department. And all of the head honchos in general are male. And that also means that salaries have gone down significantly. Marketing in San Francisco is a female ghetto, for lack of a better term. And I just hope we're not somehow creating this subclass of women programmers who get paid a lot less, which, of course, could have a lot of causes. It's a very complicated issue, so I'm not just saying that like there are head honchos out there wanting to pay women less, but I do worry about that.
It's I don't know. This is like an extremely big issue.
We don't have time to go into why getting women into tech is a complicated issue, but there's that's a whole nother podcast. Yes.
But I will say that it is very cool seeing a lot more female digital nomads now than just even a year ago. And I think it's growing like huge. It's not just couples. I see a lot of single females at co-working spaces as well.
Nice.
And then you have the couples as well. And I think that like, so for Alyssa and me, like she never thought she'd want to be a digital nomad. She didn't think that she would have the skills for it because she didn't study any kind of computer science at all. She never did anything work related with computers, and just kind of happened that she wanted to quit her teaching job. And I said, why don't you just help me with my dropshipping store? A lot of it's just admin or customer service. And she's like, oh, I can do that. Pretty basic email stuff. And now she does all of our editing for all of our HTML. Now she's like, learning because so Shopify, the platform that we're on, uses CSS, which is that Ruby on Rails?
CSS is like a markup language essentially.
It's kind of like how to style something.
Yeah, styles web pages.
Okay. And so Banyan goes in and like looks through code and she makes the changes now.
Nice.
So this is completely her job. She knows how to do much more than I can now. And I think it's one of those cool things where I think once you just start doing it, and there's so many tutorials online. I think she watches. If she can't figure something out, she'll just go on YouTube and say like, how do I change the style sheet? How do I move this from here to there?
That's actually what's awesome about being in software development is because, it inherently has this vibrant community online because, of course, everything about it has to do with technology and the internet. So where is the community? It's online. Like if you want a tutorial in anything, you can find it. You can find whole courses from like Harvard or MIT that you can take on computer science. It's awesome.
I like it. So before we wrap up, I want to ask about CoHub itself. Is this how does this co-working space compare to places you've worked at in other parts of the world?
This is actually the first co-working space we've been in while abroad. While we were in Chiang Mai, we were stationed in coffee shops, which were very nice. However, Nathan has been in a couple of co-working spaces in San Francisco.
Yeah. This one's pretty good. This one is actually more social. I worked at 2 or maybe 3 or 4 in San Francisco. I worked at Nextbase, 2 WeWork locations, and a really tiny co-working space called
The Closet.
Yeah, kinda. This co-working space is really good for social interaction. One of the WeWork locations, it was very everyone kind of had their own private office, and then there wasn't a very good common area, so it was pretty much like everyone comes in, they go out. There wasn't much interaction. I'd say the only, this one's pretty good. The only downside, there's no free keg that we can't just tap into, which WeWork had, or at least one, I think maybe both of their locations in San Francisco had a free keg.
Do they have free kegs all the time, or is it just like Friday afternoons?
It was all the time, until it ran out. They would probably go through 1 or 2 kegs a week. I know one of their locations had a keg on each floor, and I think each floor was replaced every week.
So, okay, and do people just start drinking all day, or do they drink after work? Like, how does this work?
The Mad Men-esque atmosphere of WeWork. It depends who it was. Like, they were pretty loosey-goosey. I mean, obviously, you shouldn't get totally trashed, but, like, sometimes people would have a beer for lunch. And then after work, say, like, since everyone would work until, like, 8 or 9, and it was a lot of single people, you would have, like, you'd kind of maybe start drinking around 5 or so and just maybe have, like, a beer an hour until, like, 9, then you went home. So it was still, like, a lot per day, you know, like 1 drink per hour, like, for 4 hours, you know, it's a lot per day. But
you didn't see a lot of drunkards running around the floor,
that's
if that's what you're asking.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Overall,
it just doesn't make sense. Like, I wouldn't want myself to have a beer while I'm working, and I actually honestly don't want everyone else drunk either, or even drinking, just because I'm like, you know, I want this to be like a productive place, you know? I want this to be my sanctuary. And also, you know, even though the beer is free, it's built into your membership price. Like, so
definitely.
I almost feel like because it's free, it's included, people end up drinking a lot more than they would normally. So I'd rather have WeWork, like, work in a place that doesn't have it free, has maybe some other amenity, or has it be, you know, maybe like, I don't know, nice teas or something, I guess.
Yeah. I don't even drink that much, so it's just kind of like, okay.
Yeah. For me, the incentives were a little bit different since I wasn't really paying for the, like, I wasn't paying for the membership.
Okay.
And so it was basically, the directive to me was, like, find a co-working space that you'd like to work at. And so, all things being equal, I don't have to pay for the cost.
All things being equal, Nathan chooses beer.
Right, yeah. And I mean, they also had other cool things. Like,
Yeah.
each floor had its own, like, game table, like pool or shuffleboard or ping pong. And so, I mean, there were, like, other pretty awesome things.
Okay. So, yeah, I've actually worked out of the one in both Los Angeles and in San Francisco. The one in San Francisco, I don't remember.
The Soma one?
It's probably Soma. It was, I remember in the basement, they had like a den.
Oh, yeah, that was Soma.
Okay.
That was the one I was kind of, not really. That wasn't the cool one.
Yeah, I worked out of there just a few days while I was just visiting family, and I didn't meet anyone. I literally tried to meet people. I'm like, hey, how's it going? You know, I'm like, I work out of a co-working space in Thailand, and they're like looking at me like I'm trying to steal their, you know, industry, you know, secrets about their new, like, programming language. I'm like, I'm not even a programmer, dude. Like,
are you trying to poach our engineers?
Yeah.
Is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
Which that actually kind of happens sometimes.
I can see that probably.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's interesting that we had that same experience at that location.
And the one in LA was actually the one in Hollywood, which is weird because it's literally on Hollywood Strip.
Huh.
So first, there's no parking at all, and there's no public transport. So I have no idea how people even get there.
Helicopter.
And when you're there, like, basically you walk out and it's the strip where the stars are. You know, we were walking and I'm like, this is such a weird place for a co-working space, and I still have no idea what most people there do.
Yeah, I've never been to the LA ones. So.
How much are the co-working spaces in San Francisco?
Depends what you want.
Like the one that you went to, like, per month.
I think WeWork, I could be totally wrong, but I think WeWork might have been $500 a desk per month.
That's a lot more than it is here. So
Oh yeah.
Koh Hub and Koh Lanta is $150, and Pun Space in Chiang Mai is I think it's $100. So it's significantly cheaper.
Yeah.
And for that $500, this is what you guys can get. You can get a month-long unlimited co-working space and an entire apartment.
Yeah, you could.
It's awesome. Gosh, even Taipei is so much less expensive. I feel like living in San Francisco it was a good place to live before coming here, because now the entire world feels like it's on discount prices.
Even New York. Like, we looked at Craigslist right before we left for apartments in New York, and we're like, that's pretty cheap.
That's insane. Larissa is now earning US dollars, and she spends, when she goes home, everything's in South African rand, and now when she converts things, she's like, I cannot believe I made an entire month's salary in 4 days
Yeah.
while being on the beach.
That's always a good feeling.
And then now if we go to Europe, the euro is basically the same as the dollar.
I
Yeah,
know.
it's really close. It's awesome.
So I'm excited for that. Are you, any further travel plans after Taipei?
There are a few places on our wish list. What's nice about traveling slowly is we don't really have to worry about it for a while since we'll be in Taipei for a few months. But we really want to check out Japan. Very expensive there, so we're hoping to make some money before going, but it just sounds insane. We would love to check out Australia, and then we have a friend with an apartment in Paris, and we
Okay.
kind of want to take advantage of that this year.
I like it. All right. Well, I'm glad that you guys are on the show. I kind of wish you guys the best of travel.
Yeah, you too.
If people want to keep in touch on do you have Twitter or blogs?
Why, yes, I am building our travel blog
Oh,
right
good.
now. It's my own CMS system that I built from scratch on Ruby on Rails. I'm a little proud of it.
Content management system. Is
Yes.
that- okay.
And if you find any bugs, don't report them. I'm already aware. It's gingerandthecyclist.com.
Okay. And you're the ginger.
I'm the ginger. Nathan is the cyclist.
Okay.
You can also find it under lizhubertz.com, which is my
Okay.
name.
I like it. What's going to be on your travel blog?
Awesome stories written by me. We actually built it for our mothers to keep track of our activities.
That's
so
nice.
it's just a blog about what we're doing, photos about where we are.
So I'm going to check it out right after this, more because I'm curious to see the entire back end of you building, because you built the site from scratch.
I did. It's hosted on Amazon Web Services. So.
Okay. So it's not it's not a WordPress template. It's not on Blogger
Right.
or on Weebly or on Wix.
Yeah.
So
Handmade.
handmade from scratch. Okay, I'm going to check it out.
It's artisanal, really.
I like it. All right. See you guys. Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.